Cada Cafe Retiro in Popayan, Colombia. Let's examine the individuality diagram. You will see a fine line separating the world of reality and illusion. This line is called the wall of death and represents the separation between spirit and matter. I need to demolish this wall, one brick at a time. Each brick represents a specific fear I now have to face and let go of. This wall of death separates me from my real idessic identity. It prevents me from allowing a complete soul-body, spirit-matter, creator-creature unification. I need to blast this wall, pierce it, demolish it. Every new hole I make allows the light emanating from my idessic soul to penetrate into my body. Everything is made up of vibrations, and it is always the highest one that has precedence over the others. Consequently, it is soul that invades the body and infuses it with her vibrations. The permeation of this psychic vibration, the soul, in the body, transforms the body forever. When I act on behalf of the love of me, rather than by fear of losing the love of others, I sanction the gradual dissolution of the wall of death, and I allow the union of soul and body. At last, permeation takes place, the gradual infusion of spirit and matter, of truth and falsehood. If I decide to dedicate myself completely to this process of permeation, I leave wide open the door to my soul. The change can happen quite quickly. Observe the left-hand side of the diagram. There's a solid line representing the wall of death between the trees at the top and those at the bottom. To the right side of the diagram, the same line is dotted on both sides of the star. Indeed, as I learn to live by unifying my soul, the yellow triangle and the star, and my body, the gray triangle, the wall of death disintegrates bit by bit as I deal with one fear after another. I stop living in a world of illusion. I wake up to the reality of idessic life. However, underneath and supporting the whole wall, there's a stumbling block. It represents the biggest fear of humanity, the fear of death. I must now apply myself to dislodge this huge fear. The triangle of hell, illusion. Since I was very young, I learned to play the basic roles inside the triangle of hell. The poor sheep, victim, the bad wool, persecutor or culprit, and the good shepherd, rescuer or savior. I happily went from one character to the other according to circumstances. With time, one of the three became my favorite, and I played that role when I experienced a conflict. If I choose the role of victim, I feel abused and decide to either submit, white sheep, or attack, black sheep. If unconscious, I prefer to play the persecutor. I become a nuisance to another sheep while I feel guilty about acting in such a way. Shame and resentment consume me. If I favor the role of rescuer, I try to restore order and harmony by saving all the victims that I meet, especially when they're young, poor, illiterate, sick, exploited, and better still, when they're very nice looking. No character is better than the other, since all three lead to illness, exhaustion, and death. They can only see themselves and others as the victims of an external creator. It is important to identify your own favorite character once and for all, so that you can stop yourself before you fall into hell again. For example, if my favorite role is the rescuer, as soon as I see what I perceive to be a victim, I remind myself that this person is a creatrix. This way, I do not slide back into my old role. I refuse to save her and punish her persecutor. Did you know that dedicated rescuers die much younger than perpetual victims? Saving others is exhausting. I should always remain vigilant and observe myself constantly. I try to short-circuit its action right away with words such as everything is perfect, or I am creatrix. This is my creation, and I make peace with it. This way I stay clear of the triangle of hell. Then I make a 180-degree turn in the opposite direction, that of the triangle of paradise. It is easy to see that the roles of the sheep, victim, and the wolf culprit are ridiculous, but it is very hard to understand that the role of the savior is also negative. Why would living to save others be wrong? I personally know this role quite well, and I tried to explain it to a friend when she was routinely saving other friends. My explanation was completely rejected as ridiculous. My friend was simply not aware yet of the Savior's real motivation. The Savior always works to help others because this serves his ego. This feeds the ego of the Savior. The ego is called the spiritual ego, and this spiritual ego is very, very tricky. At the workshop, we will clarify this challenging information. The triangle of paradise, reality. In fact, the three players of the Trinity have the same identity, idessa. Idessa is everything. She makes up all that exists in the visible, invisible, realized, and non-realized worlds, as well as everything that does not yet exist except as potential of pure love energy. Thus, I am idessa. My soul, my body, and my spirit are idessa. Idessa individualized herself into human beings, expressing the characteristics of a soul, the first player of my personal and internal trinity. The soul is conscious of its idessic nature and attributes. Consequently, she is truly immortal. The soul is what grows from one incarnation to the next, giving birth each time to a new body. The soul is my feminine principle. The second player of my personal trinity represents the material creature. It is my body, which is made up of three different frequencies that exist simultaneously: the physical, the emotional, and the mental sheath. PEM. The body is the masculine principle of the Trinity. He lives in the world of duality and therefore expresses himself sexually as a male or a female. Do not forget that the body can also express all idessic attributes, but he is unconscious of it. He has always been mortal until now. The purpose for the soul's permeation into the body is to allow their complete unification. Once this is accomplished, the third element of my personal trinity will be finally released. It is my spirit, idessa's original vibration, which has been imprisoned inside of matter since its creation, billions of years ago. The whole purpose of idessa's evolution in matter is reaching a state of trinity. Individualized human being can reach this state if they fully understand the process. It implies an active participation so that spirit is released inside the united soul-body and allows the final soul-body-spirit fusion. 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 1. The vision of these three elements idealizes matter at all levels: physical, emotional, mental, so that all parts finally vibrate at the frequency of spirit. The resultant idealized soul, body, spirit being, which results from this fusion, is not human anymore. She has become an idessic being, possessing all the attributes previously associated to the God of all monotheist religions: omnipotence, omniscience, immortality, etc. Its appearance brings about the end of human suffering and death. It gets even better. It is also the end of reincarnation. If I dare to go all the way to the end of the human adventure, if I give way to the governance of my soul, if I carry out the necessary fusion, I shall never have to return as a screaming baby and forever short circuit the wasad program that the body has been endlessly repeating during each new incarnation. Physical, emotional, and mental preparations are extremely important, but all of that is not enough. We must first understand who we are and why we are here on earth at this time. I invite you to come to the Colombian coffee farm called Cascada Cafe Retiro in Popayan, Colombia. I offer a 5-day workshop on the truth consciousness, February 3rd to 7th, 2020 in English, and March 2 to 6, 2020 in Spanish. I encourage you to stay for a few weeks to integrate this information into your body cells, learn some Spanish, and start making concrete action plans. Yes, there is a solution.